Oh my god. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Tonight we're going to just chat and talk about TTRPG systems because we're not doing Simbaroom. And I'm joined by the wonderful crew members around me. We've got John. John doesn't talk.
Hello.
We've got Sam. Context, as you only just said it. John, then.
No, I refuse. Fine.
Fine.
Why do I have to be the first Sam? I thought I was the second Sam. If I remember correctly from our past time, I was the second of the two of us Sams.
No, you were the.
If you just default to thinking of yourself as the second Sam.
No,
you
you're
were
right.
the first of those Sams. You were the second Sam.
Oh, I was
overall.
the second of the three. Oh, yeah.
You were the second of the three Sams.
I'm technically the third Sam,
Sam,
even though there's only two Sams here.
Yeah.
Forever
We've also got Sam.
Third Sam. That's
Third
me.
Sam. We've got Chris here, who's despairing currently.
God.
First
got
Chris.
Steve.
Hello.
Right there. That pointed the wrong way. Hi everyone. Yeah. We should do probably at least some promo first. If you look down below, there's a bunch of links, YouTube and Twitch. We usually do more actual play streams, and there's loads of those over on YouTube if you want to go check them out. There's our social media, our Discord, and our Patreon. We run 2 streams a week currently, both of them starting at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT on Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays is Shadows of Esther and Wednesdays is Simbaroom. Come join us for those. And we run one-shots on usually the first weekend of every month, the most recent of which is Tales from the Loop, which is in the process of being unveiled on YouTube at the moment. So check those out. But that's enough of that rubbish. We are here tonight because we needed to fill a stream slot. But more importantly, to talk about what TTRPG systems we want to play in 2022 on the channel, off the channel, in space, at the bottom of the ocean, anywhere at all. We have multiple things we can kind of feed into this. We have like some polls, or more specifically, a poll that we ran with patrons a couple of months ago. We have some ideas and suggestions from everyone, just some general chat about it, and maybe even some actual information on where it's all going. But you know what? Feel free to shout out stuff in chat as well, and we'll normally we don't really acknowledge chat until the end because but this time round, because we're not running, we'll acknowledge as we go. So how about that? And you know what? Let's lead with an announcement. So if you came here for some genuine information, we can just say this and then you can go, I guess. So Monday night soon, I believe we're coming through, like, is it the third arc of Shadows of Estrin?
Yeah, so
and that is when that system pauses, right?
Yeah, I think there's 3 arcs in the first set, isn't there, Steve? That's right.
Yes.
And then it's kind of like that's the intro.
That's like the intro thing, yeah. But when that comes to a stop, we're going to have a bit of a break from Shadows of Estrin there. And even more than that, we're going to have a bit of a break from good old Johnny, who's going to take a player's seat for a run of a system GM'd by Sam. That Sam down there, that one down there. Sam, do you want to reveal to the lovely viewers what system it's going to be?
Yeah, so I'm quite keen to run some Warhammer Fantasy, 4th edition in this case. I picked it up end of last year, and I've always been a bit of a Warhammer nerd, and it seems like a good opportunity to run something for the channel, like as a evening stream, and I can't wait to play it with these folks.
Yeah, no, it should be good. It'll be nice to finally get some grim fantasy on the channel.
I know. We've really been lacking that one particular area. Everything else got down. Just can't think of anything.
No. Cool. Hey, Night Bites. Yeah, we're quite stoked about it. There's quite a few Warhammer nerds on the channel, although few of them are actually playing it.
Yeah, it's conspicuous to me. I can think of loads of Warhammer nerds, and like the actual group I've got, they're like, I don't really know anything about Warhammer.
But that's cool. You could intro the world to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it is nice.
yeah.
It is nice. Just got to make sure everyone rolls a character that is basically somehow new to most of the world, which is actually kind of easy for most people. I suppose.
Yeah, depending
horrors
on
that people
where
haven't
it's
heard
going to be set, you can do that quite easily, I think.
Yeah.
Or you can just make them all because of. I don't know if the edition you have is it the same as like the original stuff where you start out like your starting professions are like not what you would associate with a role playing game. Like they're all actual professions.
Yeah. The character
Ratcatcher
creation is like
and-
100
yeah.
pages of detailed professions, and that's like most of the character creation, and
Yeah.
Ratcatcher is 100% in there.
And
Of
then there's like
course.
the advanced professions, and they're like actual adventurers.
Yeah. But a lot of the time, your character won't be that, or that might be
No.
literally what your
And they might
character is
never get
becoming
there.
by the adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You move on to, you go from Ratcatcher to Archmage or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. No, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. So I think John is joining us for that as well as the rest of the Monday Night crew. Although I think Inga might be switching or leaving because she's got quite.
I think Inga is taking a break in it, which is understandable because she's already in Cincinnati Chronicles as well. So when that comes back, yeah, two nights a week is too often to do this. Says the man who usually runs 2 nights a week.
Very much so.
That's why I know. That's how I know. It's too much.
So yeah, I think we're probably going to be a little bit. Yeah, I got the impression from Johnny's story and the like, it's going to be at least 2 or 3 sessions more. And obviously we've had some delays, so maybe late April at this rate. Given we'll probably have a little bit of a gap between the mid-late April, I'd imagine. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Obviously, no strict dates.
As for other stuff that we've got lined up, so everyone knows what's coming and what's happening in the world of telling tales. We have our next 2 one-shots lined up now. The April one, which will be happening, I think, partway through April, not near the beginning of it. And that's going to be Johnny running a Call of Cthulhu one-shot, one of his trademarked Cthulhu in space things, which I know the players are very much looking forward to. If you want to check out what that kind of thing is like, then we have a mini series over on YouTube called The Long Silent Night, which Johnny ran tail end of 2021. I think it's just a two session arc, isn't it?
Just before Christmas.
Yeah, very Christmassy it was. So there's that, and then in May we will see the return to the GM chair of this fine fellow down here, Christopher, who will be running, I believe, Death in Space.
Yep, at long last, after we've been thinking about it for most of last year, actually. I think almost everyone has backed it in some way on the Kickstarter, so I drew the short/long straw and get to have a crack at actually running it.
Absolutely, it just arrived for backers not too long ago either, in the physical form, and yeah, that should be a good one. That should be really good. I'm looking forward to that. If there is chaos backstage at the moment because of various life events happening, but if they might get in the way of my my taking part in that, but if they do not, I will be taking part in that because I do want to play Death in Space, for sure. But other than that, our one shots for the year are pretty clear. And on top of that, Wrath of the Warden, which is our current Simbaroom campaign story thing, is coming to a close in the next couple of sessions. And we're going to do the same thing we did last time we had a big Simbaroom arc closing, when we did the Copper Crown. We can have like an interim system for like 6, 7, 8 whatever sessions, and last time we did Coriolis, which was a lot of fun, but we kind of want to do, I guess, a different system because it's good to get as many different systems out there as possible, because every time we start a new system, hey, we get an influx of subscribers and followers, so that's pretty sweet, but we don't know what to do. Literally no clue other than probably not a grim fantasy, because as I alluded to, Simbaroom, Shadows of Esteren, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, what happened to our variation? What happened? Probably not that.
Definitely preferences, but there's no consensus.
No.
I
There's
very
nothing
much
like
would
that
like to go back into space in some way or another.
in some form or other.
Chris just
Um,
wants an actual spaceship for his spaceship flying character.
Yeah, after he was cruelly denied that in Coriolis. Yeah, so like, yeah, there's so much potentially to talk about. But you know what? Let's start the discussion, shall we, by putting everyone on the spot. And let's go. Why don't we go around the table and we can just shout out what's the system more than any other that you'd love to play in 2022? Whether it's like a timeliness thing or just something you've always wanted to play and it's always the top of your list of systems you want to play, or whether it's something that's recently come out that you really like the sound of. And it doesn't have to be, I guess it doesn't have to be something you haven't played before or that we haven't had on the channel before, but like something, something like that. And you know what? I will start so people can think, now that I've put them on the spot there. The thing I'll cheat, actually. I'll do two. Everyone else can do it. You know however many you want. The two things I'd really love to mainly run in 2022. One of them is a role-playing game from I'm going to get his name wrong here. Is it John Harper? Does Blades in the Dark? Sounds about right.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
we can get fact checkers on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will fact check it myself via the medium of opening the file, which is also so I get the name of the system right. But I think it's it's John Harper. Yeah, and it's a system called Aegon, which is like a Bronze Age Hellenic heroic role-playing game. That because it's John Harper has kind of quite strong sort of procedural elements to it, and very very kind of narrative elements to it. And I'll be straight with you, I haven't even particularly read much of it, but just anyone who knows me for any one period of time will tell you that Bronze Age, Iron Age type stuff is something I'm super keen on and really interested in, just historically and also like as storytelling, because so many stories are set in kind of copied Middle Ages, and so few stories are set at any other fantastical time.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of doing something like that. So that, and I think the other thing I'd love to run more than any other system, and that's one I've run before and run on the channel before. I just really want to get my teeth into the new One Ring again. I really, really do. I love it. I love it to bits.
It was great.
I'm a massive Tolkien nerd. The one shot is one of the favorite things I've done on the channel. The one shot that turned into 2 1-shots. Yeah, love it. And I'd love to adapt more Lotro stuff again as well. Like I haven't. It's kind of not left my brain since I ran it last summer. So, and the physical object arrived in the last couple of weeks, and it's like, oh god, it's so beautiful. Yeah. So there we go. That's mine. No one looks like they're still thinking. So I'm going to.
It has to be a dice.
Traditional on the channel. Yeah, I'm going to roll a die. One of my oldest dice. This veteran gem green D10. Right, Sam. You know who I mean. This Sam here. What do you reckon?
Okay, I have a few. Well, no, I have 3 that I've thought of. Firstly, I'd really love to play. 2 of them, I'm not sure how well they'd work on a channel because they both involve cards rather than dice, and I don't know if they involve like if you have to draw cards from the same deck. I can't really remember the systems well enough. But one of them is Deadlands, which was, I think, the very first RPG I ever played, and I really enjoyed it. It was like a 1-shot that turned into like a 3-shot, and it was really good. It was really fun. Like
how to tell them that I ran it.
That was so fun. Oh, that was so fun.
It was just a really great time, and I'd love to go back to like that world and see a bit more of it. It just has a great combination of like kind of horror and like Western themes that it was just a lot of fun. And the combat was really like janky, but it was still like I remember we had one character who seemed to they were a pre-made character that didn't work somehow in their combat, but it was still like that wasn't my character, so I didn't have to experience the misery of that.
Yeah, they had like some kind of like buff on them or like perk that like didn't work with their stats because it like gave them a boost to think it wasn't this, but it was the equivalent of like, oh, on any combat roll of 3 dice or more, you get an extra die or something, and like all their combat stats were 2 dice or something. It was like, what? It was something along those lines.
Yeah. And there's definitely a card mechanic in there, but I don't know if you have to be drawing from the same deck or not in Deadlands. So I can't really, I don't know. It'd have to be,
there are ways of doing it. We could rig something with Roll20.
We could use Tabletop Simulator or anything else. Yeah, we could definitely do it. Deadlands is always interesting to me because it's kind of the first of those Weird West settings. In fact, I believe it's called Deadlands, the Weird West. And like you see so many of them around nowadays, particularly in video games. Like I think there is literally a game that came out recently called Weird West, and like various other things of like spooky Western stuff. But I remember when Deadlands came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is like a completely original notion." Yet another example of tabletop role playing games, kind of leading the charge genre wise back in the 80s and 90s. But yeah. Deadlands, and I suspect I know what your next one is going to be, Sam. If you said it's card based, but why don't you tell us?
The second one is Hillfolk. I think it's Hillfolk, and we had one like sort of mini campaign of that we played a while ago before streaming. That was a lot of fun, and I think it's a nice change of pace from things that like. A lot of the games we play are not like combat driven, but they still feature combat like fairly heavily. It's still a major point. And Hillfolk was just something that seemed so kind of relationship based and like social conflict rather than any kind of physical conflict. And I also remember like looking through the book of it, I think with some of the guys here, and there were a lot of good settings that like really piqued my interest when we looked through, and I was like, God, there's like 10 settings in here that I'd love to play at some point.
The ants. Do you remember the ants?
Yeah,
there's an ant war. There's so like because it kind of has a default setting of, oddly enough, a kind of bronze Iron Age Hillfolk sort of thing. But yeah, it's literally got about 30 or 40 usable settings that make up the majority of the book. And there's some amazing stuff in there. Supervillain Henchman is one.
Yes.
Which is really good. But obviously a personal favorite of mine is like a small wrestling promotion company, which sounds like an amazing thing as well. But there's really esoteric stuff in there as well, as like there's really odd sci-fi ideas, and there's like a sort of white picket fence Lovecraft sort of thing, like suburbia cult sort of thing. There's one where you're rabbits in a kind of Watership Down kind of way.
Yeah.
Or is that one? I think that one is actually the ant one specifically. The rabbits are like kind of like warring rabbits, but the ant one is actually ants, an ant colony fighting off wave after wave of ants infected by. It's a zombie apocalypse movie in roleplay form where you play ants.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were so many cool settings in that book, and the system was a lot of fun and like gave you, I don't know, if, at least for me, it made me think about my character in slightly different ways to like the normal systems that we play, in terms of like how they're related to other characters, and like how you kind of how you talk about what they do, as in not just like what you want to do, but like what is best for the story in terms of your own character's actions. And I think it was just a really fun system, and it had like we said, a lot of really cool settings that I think would be a lot of fun to play. So that one was definitely up there. And the final thing is not really a system, but I know there's a few systems that kind of encompass this, but I'd love to play some. We played one of this once, and it turned out to not be so great because we had some players who weren't like massive fans of how combat focused it was, but I'd love to play some kind of 40k based system. I know there's a few out there that like a different kind of exact settings, but I'd love to play something in the 40k setting. It's just a cool universe. I think it has some good games set there. And also, I mean, there's a video game coming out soon, Dark Tide, which is 40k based that I'm excited for. And, you know, I'm just in the mood for some 40k stuff.
40K. We've got grim fantasy. Why not some grim sci-fi that looks like fantasy? Yeah, we played Death Watch. Yeah, it was a bit crunchy for some of our group for sure, and it leans into just skirmish game at certain points when the combat kicks off. But there's definitely other stuff as well. There is a newer 40k tabletop roleplay game called Wrath and Glory. That's much lighter, much lighter. I don't know how good it is. I think I've got it on PDF, but I never really browsed it that fully. But yeah, all good options there. So moving on, and I have to move on here. We have to move on to a D8 now, or a D4, but they're the devil. So let's find out. Let's spin the wheel and see who we're coming to next. Like a very, very polite and much more friendly game of Russian roulette.
Weird way to go with it.
Yeah. Christopher, I sense some anime-themed games hovering over the horizon.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but you ask what we want to play, not what we want to run. And so you have nothing but yourself.
You can say things you want to run as well, for sure.
But for stuff I desperately want to play, and you have literally no one to blame but yourself, please, for the love of God, someone let me play a longer Werewolf or Mage game. I missed pretending to be young. I missed being in a system that I knew, and I missed not having to second guess myself with rules, because the confidence brought on by age allows you to just ad lib stuff you don't really care about or need to know, and just chew through esoteric nonsense or legions of worm. Just gimme.
I definitely feel you on that, and like I notice it provokes some laughter among the younger members of our crew here. But let me tell you, like he's not wrong. Like running Cincinnati Chronicles, like the ease with which I can slip into those worlds and those systems because they're embedded into the hindquarters of my brain from like teenage years ill spent poring over World of Darkness source books. Like the ability to just have a player go, well, how does this particular bit of random lore question work? And for me to be able to go, blah, instead of, can someone look it up in the PDF?
I just want to say I'm laughing because I partly agree.
It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, although if anyone is interested in World of Darkness stuff, we do have a series on hiatus at the moment called Cincinnati Chronicles. You should check it out on YouTube. But yeah, more. And I tell you what, Chris, playing some mage vastly increased your chance of getting more mage, because I loved running mage.
It's so good. It's just so good.
I really feel like mage...
good. I don't know, because good implies objectively good. I think it's a very clunky system, but it has so much nostalgia. Just the weight of nostalgia for me is overpowering.
There's such charm to that setting. It's so good.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, I really feel like Mage fits in that nice niche as well, where it's like, it's not got... We had this conversation on the Discord a bit as well. It doesn't have the problem that Vampire has so much, and the Vampire has become a bit cliche, and it's not dull in its actual nature, but it's dull by what it associates with. Whereas Mage just doesn't have that same association. No. So I think there'll be innately a lot more interest of people like my age and that sort of thing, which is probably a lot of our audience. And I was literally saying, oh, I don't really interested in Vampire. But I really
because it's like the Vampire and the Werewolf stuff feels like treading on ground a little bit because of how influential they've become, particularly Vampire. But Mage and Wraith and Changeling, there's just nothing really out there too comparable. I suppose maybe there's some Changeling style stuff. Isn't there some kind of like urban. There's a lot of urban horror,
Yeah.
American urban
Urban
horror
fantasy
series
stuff.
that have elements of fairies and changelings and stuff in, isn't there? Like Grimm. Am I called? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
Grim and Charmed and stuff, right? Have things like that, but not so much Mage and Wraith. They're like really remain really original, I think. So
I should blow the dust off my plan to maybe do a changeling one shot with a bit more homebrewy and aligning it with actual Danish Shanachas and actual folklore instead of kind of Midwest interpretations of folklore. No disrespect to
great
Changeling,
concept.
it's a great game, but there's just a little.
No, you go ahead. If you can't tell,
It's
folks,
hard
Chris
to
is on a
tell
bit
if my
he's a bit
internet's cut
laggy
out
tonight.
or if
But,
everyone's waiting for me to complete.
yeah. No, you finish your thought, Chris, and then signal it by doing this, and then we'll know we can go.
No, but yeah, that just like there's a thing about playing Changeling when you're associated with this folklore, and it's like when you're listening to Twitch, the same Twitch stream in two different windows, and you're getting kind of this booming, slightly out of sync audio. It's like that, but with my culture. So
Sure,
frustrating,
yeah.
but also still eerily familiar.
That was a very effective and relevant comparison.
Yeah,
Has
I think
Chris finished. He hasn't.
he
Oh, no,
didn't
sorry,
do
sorry.
You've got to do the
scary
thing.
bear, but
Are you finished, Chris?
I think he's refusing to.
Oh, so I do this to finish. I thought you said do this when I'm running out of.
No. If you finished, once you've finished your thing, scary bear. There we go. Wonderful. So yeah, I agree, and I think like it's something obviously like Changeling doesn't take only from Irish folklore; it takes from all different stuff. But I think it's just different everywhere, and also with the like part of the problem specifically for Irish folklore within Changeling is obviously like the kith named after like the she is like the dominant one, so like that has aspects of it. I think a really cool concept for one of those is some American changelings within that kind of that changeling system and setting going to Ireland and finding out that basically everything they've been taught is bollocks. And I think
nice.
that's a really cool idea and then that's like reversing that culture shock onto the players.
For when we finally rotate Cincinnati Chronicles, depending, because I know we've got some concerns about the how the character is going to be set up, but my character for Changeling, I already have a blueprint, and it's going to be a response to a actual artwork one of my friends locally has done, a piece of very obscure video art, so it'll actually be a response to that and involved in that work as well. So I'm hoping to line all that up nicely. And for an audience of probably 0, because those Venn diagrams don't touch, but me, I'll appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically why I'm doing Cincinnati Chronicles. That's one for me. Not the major studio one that's going to make all the money. Is there anything else, Chris, or are those your two? No more for Chris. We'll tell you what, we'll have Sam next, because Sam's got to pop off for a brief bit in a minute. So why doesn't Sam tell us his picks?
Cool. Well, I just want to play everything that everyone's mentioned so far, because that all sounds so much fun. I want to play Deadlands. I want to play Changeling. I really want to play the Bronze Age one that Matt mentioned. I want to play Hillfolk. All of the above. And we should play all of that. But as for, I guess, what I really tend to think about more than playing is actually running, because I'm kind of a hobby GM. I like playing stuff as well, obviously, but I'm constantly making and coming up with stories and worlds for games. So obviously, you all know Warhammer is one of my number ones that I've always wanted to play and run. I've really wanted to run at 40k Warhammer, so I just Warhammer 40k setting. I just haven't got the actual like system yet, so maybe I'll have to look into the one that Matt suggested at some point. But ones I've actually got, another one that I'm really interested, maybe longer term running / playing, and if someone else wants to, but is Wicked Ones, which is I can't remember who made it now. Was it Fantasy? Anyway, it's like you play the bad guys taking over the dungeon. And then
it's like Dungeon Keeper, the TTRPG.
Is literally that, and you have like minions who do your bidding, And then if your character dies, you just become one of the minions who was underneath them because you have like a gang of minions, and one of those like fights to take control and becomes the lead character. And you can have like plots like, you know, like attack and defeat the villagers, or it could be like corrupt them with deadly toxins, or it could be like recruit them all into your evil cults, or like find great treasures. And it's a little bit similar to like Blades in the Dark in that like it runs on kind of the clocks and heist based system where you've got like challenges that you're trying to achieve, and the world is kind of running in the background. And like one session, maybe a couple of sessions will be one of those challenges, and then there'll be downtime when your base might be attacked, like in Dungeon Keeper, where they'll come and try and root you out from your dungeon. It just seems like such a fun setting, and it's really evocative and interesting to play.
I mean, by saying it's quite like Blades in the Dark, it is a Forged in the Dark system.
Yeah,
so
same system.
Exactly like Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, exactly. But the setting for that, it very much into, and I really enjoy watching Blades in the Dark and thinking about like the mechanics are very, very satisfying. So I'd love to try running that myself. I'm sure you'll echo the enjoying that once you got into it, Matt.
Yeah. Blades in the Dark is, I really enjoyed that, and it's something that that kind of Forged in the Dark system, I think, has the potential of like really growing you as a GM, because it requires such carefully regulated improvisation that it ticks out at just the right rate, to not overload you or leave you kind of like, I wanted to improvise more stuff, but everything's just worked. So yeah,
I think that'll be a really interesting challenge actually, because as you say, like I do usually improv my games to the extent that often sometimes stuff doesn't really make sense, and I have to go backpedal my improv later sessions. So I suspect it will be quite a good learning experience for me with the measured improv according to kind of systems already set out, and give me some frameworks to build future games on. Otherwise, I'd quite like to, I haven't really decided a system or anything for it, but I'd quite like to run a horror at some point on Telling Tales, whether it was a one shot or a longer thing, I don't know yet. But we've got some fun story ideas for kind of very unsettling settings and worlds to play in. I can vaguely mention one of my ideas I was chatting with others about now, which is just I haven't fleshed it out at all, but basically like a world where suddenly and unexpectedly the city or settlement you're in is surrounded by like ice in all directions, miles high, completely frozen in, and you're just like isolated, and you have to escape. It's just like, you know, mysterious. Isolated, literally. And then the story is set on a submarine that's been built to go under the ice, and the whole game is under the ice, trying to get somewhere, even if there's any hope of there being anywhere. And I love the horror setting of that, and the kind of hopelessness, but also the utter unfamiliarity of being in somewhere like that, with you can never go upwards and you're stuck there. You know, I thought that was a fun idea. So I don't know what I'd run that in, but
regulars on our Discord will know the popularity of ice-based horror in and among the TT crew. No, that sounds cool. I'm a big fan of horror settings that are like sort of inexplicable and a bit random and also unescapable. I think they tend to be pretty good. A weird random movie recommendation for that, if anyone's interested, that kind of inspired my interest in that kind of story, is, I think it was a cult film at the time, but maybe it's kind of less people have heard of it as time goes on. But it's a 90s film called Cube, that is amazing. It's not amazing. It's really interesting and good, but it is a bit janky. And it's essentially a group of people who don't know each other anyway wake up inside a cube, like, you know, about, I don't know what it is, like 12 foot by 12 foot cube, with hatches in every surface. And when they go through it is another cube and another cube, and some have traps in, and then like they figure out kind of a relationship between the cubes, but there's also like members of the group who are not helpful, and that kind of typical or like horror premise. But if you go into it and want an explanation of why, you're not really going to get there. There's kind of hints, but like that just kind of like, high concept setting, go. No explanation. I love that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's the perfect setup for horror, because like the unknown and almost unknowable is just ideal. Where it's just like, what is actually going on? You're never really going to find out. Sorry, deal with that.
Yeah, but it's the dealing with it that's the
exactly
the interesting part. Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds cool. Do it.
Okay, I'll have to figure out a system. I'll do it.
So for our next, so now, I don't need to pick a die. All dice do D2s. So who will be the penultimate revealer of systems? It's only Steve, isn't it?
I guess I should probably unmute then. Yeah. Okay. So systems coming up this year that I really want to play. I mean, there's so many that are coming out. I don't even know whether this one's coming out this year. I hope it is. Blade Runner, the Free League adaptation. I'm a huge Blade Runner fan, so I'm going to be massively interested in that. No idea whether it'll be any good. I hope so, but so that's one for the future.
They've yet to fluff a release.
True.
Yeah, that everything has been a huge Free League fan. Anyone who watches the Free League will know I'm a huge Free League fan, and we run a lot of their stuff on the channel. Yeah, if anyone can do a Blade Runner TTRPG, I think it's them.
So that was kind of an easy choice. In terms of things to potentially run, I really want to get. I have this idea of running a Delta Green. It's kind of, it depends on how you define one shot, but a short limited series, I think I'd probably say, because part of this is not wanting to be tied into having to get everything wrapped up in 5 hours. So at my stage of GM career, I'm happy for things to slide around a bit. But I have all of the ideas for that down. I'm kind of going through. I'm less good at improvising. I'm terrible at sort of wanting to know all of the whys behind stuff, even if they're never mentioned elsewhere. So I'm kind of going through and hashing out all the details. But hopefully, before too long, I should have that wrapped up and ready to go. So that's on the list.
Yeah, nice. I think it's actually really interesting over on our Discord because the Steve's Delta Green campaign is almost like unfurled in front of everyone's eyes because Steve has been kind of going through the process of thinking about it and starting to implement things about it, and it's really interesting seeing someone kind of taking those steps.
I started off with one idea and it just got too large. It's like I can't start with this because what if people hate it? What if I can't? So really trying to focus down on a smaller, again, kind of a self-contained setting without too many.
Killing your darlings a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been constantly
excited
about this Delta Green story. You've been teasing us for like a year now, Steve. Come on. By the time we start, we're going to be so hyped for it.
It can't be a year. I hope it's not a year.
It'll be like the prequels. Or latterly the sequels. Yeah. All right. We've got one person left, and it's John.
Hello. I just want to say that last remark was a really good way to big Steve up.
It did seem
comparing Steve to George Lucas.
I was going to say comparing Steve's as yet unfinished project as Star Wars prequels / sequels.
Hey, a lot of people like the prequels. There are people on this stream who like the prequels. You know who I'm talking about.
They live among us.
They look like us. They even smell like us. But something not something's not right there down below. Not like that. I mean under the surface. Jesus. Moving on.
So anyway. Oh goddamn. So my what games I would like to play is slightly skewed because what you just gave me a look like I was saying something horrible.
No. I was exasperated at my own vocal missteps.
Yeah, mine is slightly skewed because I've already played the game I really want to play this year. Because I always want to play Vampire because I like vampires and dark 90s stuff. But it doesn't count because I've already done it. I am looking forward to Wraith and Changeling, though, as we've already talked about the World of Darkness ones. But other things I'm looking forward to, I've just got the PDF of Our Haunt, which is the new Possum Creek Studios that I am looking forward to playing at some point. I haven't really delved into it yet, but Possum Creek Studios have a reputation for being quite wholesome and homey. But when you're all playing dead people and one of the character classes is murder victims, I'm not entirely sure how wholesome it's going to end up, but I'm
Yeah.
very intrigued to find out.
As as we found out with Wonder Home, which was the game of theirs that we played as a one shot last year, it is wholesome and it is sweet, but it does also have like an undercurrent of, Wonder Home is this terribly kind of dreamy pastoral environment of like happy journeys with friends, but there's this undercurrent behind it of like that you never really delve into. That's like the land of Wonder Home is has suffered an awful traumatic event and period in its relatively recent history that the land is only really starting to recover from. And it's not something you focus on, but it does give that undercurrent of kind of sadness and living with trauma to it that I think we worked quite well into our little one shot. But it sounds like it's J Dragon, right, the developer.
Correct.
If I recall correctly, the source book actually tells you not to dwell on the history specifically because it's to be
Just
an
that
implicit undercurrent, which I think is great and is a good sign for their future games, that they're allowing these atmospheric objects without spending 200 pages talking about General Flurp at the Battle of Fluffy Friends.
Or whatever. Yeah. So it sounds quite similar to that.
Slight correction. J Dragon was, I think, the project manager in Our Haunt, but it was written by Ray Nadjiani.
I'm not sure, but yeah, cool. But Possum Creek is J Dragon's thing, right? I think.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool.
Other than that, I'm kind of planning on, not that I don't love all my wonderful friends and their company, but I'm planning on delving into solo RPG at some point. I really I've been watching a friend of mine do like a journaling RPG campaign, basically, and that seems pretty cool. And I don't know how, if I did that, how it would integrate with the channel.
I think someone streaming a one-person RPG would be amazing. I genuinely do. I think that would actually be really intriguing, and I'm shocked more people don't do it. Something like 1,000-Year Vampire.
Yeah.
You're going to get people watching along with that, especially because it's so choice-based. And kind of, essentially it can become Twitch plays the solo RPG via the vector of the person doing it. I think it's an amazing idea.
Yeah, I also quite like the idea of it being very personal, though. And maybe, this is partly inspired by a 1,000-Year Vampire playthrough that I read, where
is
someone
this the amazing one with the stunning art?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of so every era was just like a one set atmospheric painting,
almost like a slideshow, weirdly.
It was fantastic.
Something like that has done 2 of them now.
I haven't read the other one. Something like an illustrated diary, and then maybe having it available for patrons or something. Still not entirely sure, but yeah, if chats or comments or whatever have any opinions on what they would like, let me know. But even if you don't want it, I'm still planning on doing one for me. So take that.
So
I think it sounds very
If you don't have any suggestions, then one's coming anyway. But yeah, in chat, if you've got any, so we've mainly talked about kind of the systems we want to run, but if you want to see us run anything, please do pop those suggestions into chat, and we'll do a section later on when we talk about that. In the meantime, I think we're gonna We're going to lose Sam for about 20 minutes now.
Yeah,
I
I was
think
just about to say I'll
Sam-
dash off. So that's my
Sam will be
excuse.
back. Sam will be back. But yeah, in the meantime, you know what we should do? Let's have a look through our. We ran a poll for patrons. So the way one of the ways our Patreon works is that at a certain tier, you get like access to a special patron only area of our Discord where there's polls and like just snippets of things that's coming up and lots of stuff like that. And we ran a poll there to see what people wanted to see for our one shots this year. And for the first time ever, non-patrons can see the results. There you go. So this is a couple of months old now. This ludicrously childish way is how we run our polls. So it is the only way to run polls on Discord, other than just linking to an external one.
We're
I think so,
professionals.
unless there's can you get like fancy proper polls now on Discord if you pay through the nose to boost your channel or anything?
Fancier than this?
Fancier than this?
Does
Surely
such a
not.
poll exist?
It's charming. It's charming. So, the things that kind of came out ahead in here, and some of them were more surprising than others, I have to say, and were quite interesting. Is we had quite a few votes for Mothership. Not terribly surprising, bit of an indie darling. One of the things, the only reason I'd say that Mothership is less likely to get played is simply because Death in Space got released. And they both have that lo-fi, blue-collar, gritty sci-fi thing to them, right? I think I'm right in saying. But it's still there. What I thought was really interesting is we had what do we have there? We had Mothership and Those Dark Places, and is Death in Space on there as well? No, Death in Space isn't on there.
I think Death in Space was just taken as a given because I think Chris had said it.
Because we knew, yeah.
Yeah.
But like lots of those kinds of things. Something else that got quite high results that I was a bit surprised by. I probably shouldn't be. And speaking of, as we did earlier, like ice-based horror being popular with the TT crew. Yeah, Ice Fleet. Steve, do you wanna you know more about this than I do, I think, because did you back it or buy it or something like that?
I bought it, yeah. So it's a combined album and RPG. I think the RPG is based on I think it's the system that underpins Into the Odd, or maybe Electric Bastionlands?
Bastionland and stuff.
Yeah. So it's designed as a self-contained RPG, fairly simple, fairly straightforward. But it's designed to go along with this absolutely. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack is by I don't know how to pronounce the name, which is awkward. Kauan, Kauan. The album is again Ice Fleet. It's just such an amazing collection of sounds and music. It just you really get that sensation of isolation, of freezing wastes. It's an amazing album, and it just struck me that it was a really interesting project. And obviously we couldn't play the music on stream, which is a bit of a downer, but I think it could be interesting
it's
to
kind
learn.
of nautical icebound horror, isn't it, in the same fashion as again a backstage crew favorite TV series, The Terror, which I am thoroughly evangelical about. Everyone out there watch The Terror, unless probably not when you're feeling low, but otherwise watch The Terror. So that's something that seemed quite popular. Another one that got a lot of votes and people have talked about quite a lot on the Discord is Vaesen, which is of course another Free League game of Nordic folk horror, set in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Big old one. This, I'll tell you what. I'd like to run Vaesen. Several other people would like to run Vaesen, but essentially no one has run Vaesen on the channel yet because everyone's waiting for Johnny to run Vaesen. I think it's safe to say it seems like just such a good fit, fit for Johnny's style But I'm sure he will get round to it sooner or later. But it's
And the contrast with Call of Cthulhu is really quite interesting. Yeah,
because they're both investigatory horrors, but
yes, but the underpin again, the direction with the way you approach them, the things that you find are very, very different. So yeah.
What is kind of the I don't know about the difference, but like, what's the main? I don't know how to describe this, but kind of what's different between Vaesen and like normal Call of Cthulhu or something like that? What is that?
I think it's at least partly it's kind of the type of horror, obviously with the folk horror difference from like the cosmic horror, although those two can definitely bleed over into each other from time to time. But I think it's almost like, I guess for me, reading through Vaesen comes across much more like, and this is a niche reference and it might not be very helpful, but obviously Call of Cthulhu is like Lovecraft. Vaesen is like M.R. James in that it's much more rooted in kind of culture and class, and like it has like an element of that kind of gentlemanly investigator sort of thing to it, but with also the sense that that person shouldn't be poking their nose into a place that it doesn't really belong. But it's quite difficult to define. It also feels very, 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 very Nordic. Both in terms of the folklore that it's delving into and it's the setting. Like it really evokes like smoky old Scandinavian turn of the century towns on the edge of vast snow covered forests, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's my explanation.
Yeah, the whole point is that the Vaesen they're not supposed to be good or evil, but Scandinavia is going through a wave of industrialization, and the changes in the country are changing the relationship between humans and these Vaesen. So it's all about change. It's all about kind of corruption, I guess, of the way that humans tend to exploit resources.
Oddly feels like there's elements of Simbroom subtext.
I was going to say it definitely feels like Free League have a type.
Yeah. But also elements of Tales from the Loop, I think, because Tales from the Loop has a certain aspect of, a culture being affected by the. Although in this case, it's almost like a flip of Tales from the Loop in that in Vaesen, humans are doing something that's causing like the old world to fight back, to kind of rebel against that a little bit. Whereas in Tales from the Loop, the humans are doing the thing that humans are suffering from, if you see what I mean. So yeah, an interesting thing in that. But yeah, Vaesen is something that's proved pretty popular. And there is Johnny in chat. So there we go. Popping in to say hello during a short break in my Wednesday night TTRPG session. Hello during a short break in my Wednesday night TTRPG session. Thank you, Johnny. We're just talking about Vaesen and how you are the ideal TTGM for that.
Yeah, you've been voluntold, I'm afraid to say.
So there we go. What else was popular? Vampire the Dark Ages. Here's right. Johnny says, I will fight anyone who tries to run Vaesen. No one's going to try and run it without it. It's the Johnny game. That's
I think everyone is saying they really want to play it, but they're waiting for you to run it, and we're all sad because it's taking too long.
You're breaking everyone's heart.
Also a hello to Justin.
Hello to Justin. I had noticed Justin, but because it hadn't been flashed up on screen, and because we were talking about Johnny at the time. But we love you too, Justin. So Vampire the Dark Ages. Here's the thing with running more World of Darkness and Vampire the Dark Ages. Me doing Cincinnati Chronicles in the first place was not a good idea for the channel. It wasn't. Because everything World of Darkness we've run primarily are the second series we launched with, which was Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. London Ascendant was the name of the chronicle that we ran. It tanked so fucking hard, you have no idea. Like if I told everyone out there the ratio of views both on Twitch and YouTube for that series, even with me saying how much it tanked, you would be shocked. Honestly, there were sessions we ran that I'm not sure anyone who wasn't a crew member watched. Why? I don't know. I think it was a pretty good idea. I like Vampire 5th Edition as a setting. The players were great. The characters were great. I have no idea. But for whatever reason, very little interest. Cincinnati Chronicles, which is obviously my little bouncing baby of a campaign idea. It's done all right, kind of all right, but nowhere near the other 2 weekly series. Especially Simbaroom, which is like the essentially the flagship as far as our attention goes in terms of views on YouTube and watchers on Twitch. And we don't entirely organize things by what will be successful, but neither, like, if we just carry on just doing things that no one wants to watch, like, there's not an awful amount of point in us. We might as well just do that offline. You know what I mean? Cincinnati Chronicles was basically me just going, I just really want to do this, and this is an excuse to do it. As far as further World of Darkness stuff goes, I don't know. People say they want Vampire the Dark Ages here. Do you? Do you? If you do, that's great, and I'll run it. But yeah, there's a certain reluctance, especially like I'm also worried about World of Darkness fatigue after Cincinnati Chronicles. Having said that, I'd love to run some Vampire Dark Ages. I love it.
Yeah, I think if you just look at it in isolation, I think what I want to play Vampire the Dark Ages for is teethy, blood-fueled superheroes gallivanting through medieval Europe and having lots of kind of anachronistic fun.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not what mine would be like. Mine, I would expect everyone to thoroughly brush up on their Dark Ages culture and history. But I'd love to do it. But I don't know. Maybe if people maybe if Cincinnati Chronicles somehow becomes popular or something, I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely an idea. Maybe I could do it for a one shot. It doesn't really matter if they tank.
I'd love to play it because it does have that, like, I know you talked about it, but like the system and the setting is still, even for me, like one of the easier ones to fall into. But then to play that in a new-ish setting, like half new setting, and also to see the like parts of the history of the vampire games that we played in not like modern day, but close to modern day, it would be. I think it'd be really interesting. I'd love to play a Dark Ages game.
That's one of the things I love about World of Darkness in general, is this massive arcing history and depth of lore to them. And like, it's just really fun things like, if you've only done Vampire the Masquerade and you haven't read all the source books and stuff, like, there's so many elements that you could come in and you can create your character and go in and say, okay, so and there's familiar things, I know the names of this clan that I am. I don't know, there's a prince of the city I got. Okay. So am I like, how's the Camarilla here? The what? But I thought they've basically always been there providing shelter and guidance. No. Or even things like I remember playing a game once of Vampire Dark Ages where someone had created, and this will mean nothing to anyone out there, apologies if you aren't familiar with the system, who was playing a character of a clan called the Cappadocian. And someone else was in the group and was like, they played quite a lot of Vampire, but very much just Masquerade, and they hadn't read more. And they went, that's Cappadocian, I've never even heard of them. And I was like, no, you won't have any more. And it's just that interesting lore lurking behind that, which gives, again, because that also gives that impression of like, oh, if this campaign goes on long enough, we might find out what happened to the Cappadocians, sort of thing. And I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe. I'd like to, but we'll see. Star Trek Adventures, over to Chris.
I mean, that's not 100% fair. I'm just upvoting anything sci-fi and spaceship related. I think
it was your suggestion, though, the Star Trek Adventures is something you wouldn't mind doing a one-shot of.
I think I recall mentioning just anything Star Trek-y. Because and anything, in fairness, Star Warsy as well. I think that's on the list somewhere.
Yeah, you did have that dual suggestion. I was fascinated that we got more votes for Star Trek than for Star Wars.
But I mean, this is a personal preference, and the reason why I pick these preferences is people are Star Trek and Star Wars fans because they know Cisco or they know Janeway or they know Skywalker. I know kind of Galaxy class, Constitution class, Carillion corvettes, like Mon Calamari shipyards, the drive works, all of these different. I'm much more into this. Not that I'm obsessed with spaceships, but the structuralism and the concrete elements rather than the social and the character elements and the science. And I'm just a huge fan. I dimly recall there being a Star Trek system, probably not one of the more recent ones, where if you could just technobabble coherently for a while, you would actually improve your chances of succeeding the roles.
Yes. I believe that game was literally called Star Trek the Game. And yeah, I remember that rule being introduced.
And that's just like, sign me right up for that, because that's literally that's
just
the
how they write
space
the
I want to
scripts.
inhabit.
Yeah. And I think, like, with your interest in like the science and the ships of it, like you'd naturally lean more towards Star Trek than Star Wars in that, because they pretend that there's more science behind it. So
I really appreciate Star Wars' weird, almost atmospheric technological stagnation for reasons that are I think several different excuses for why technology has suspended itself in that galaxy. But I just kind of love that. That's something you don't see very often. You see it in Dune, the concept of technology is as it is. It's monolithic. It's not changing. And you see it in Star Wars. Technology is what it is. There are 1,000-year-old blasters. There are 600-year-old spaceships. That's just the way
they've reached the peak,
better.
Essentially. Yeah. And 40k to a certain degree as well, although there's also social reasons behind that in 40k.
And in fairness, I believe Death Space leans on that as well. Like, science is not finished, but it is also not the Omni-tool, tricorder, sonic screwdriver thing that is going to fix your problem.
It reached a peak and then sat at that peak for hundreds of billions of years, and then Death in Space. Because Death in Space is set during the Big Crunch, right? Or at the beginning of the Big Crunch.
Yeah, there was a big war. They destroyed essentially the Golden Goose, so now everyone's kind of screwed.
Yeah. But I think those are great ideas. We've done a few one-shots of sci-fi on the channel. We had Coriolis as well, and Johnny's Space Thulu. But yeah, I think we've got room for more sci-fi. Absolutely. Something else, speaking of more sci-fi, something else that got upvoted, and obviously thank you everyone, is finish the Alien trilogy. So there's been 2 of these so far. There was A Place of Burning, and then there was A Congress of Sorrows. I know I'm good at naming, don't at me. I guess I've got to finish that. I guess that's a trilogy now, and I've got to finish that, the trilogy of the World of Gehenna. If you want to watch those one shots, they're on the YouTubes.
You've got to kill Justin's character again.
Definitely. He will, and I know he's still watching. He will murder me if I kill another one of his characters. I think stone cold murder me. I will finish the Alien trilogy. I just need to get a good idea for it first, because I don't want to do the traditional disappointing third installment of a sci-fi trilogy. What the fuck, Steve, says Justin. Hey, he's just calling it how he sees it. You can't blame him for that. Surprising number of votes for Stone Top, which I think only got so much votes after, because I don't think many people knew what it was, which is justifiable. It's not out yet. But then after like, I think Steve, you asked about it and I explained it, and everyone went ooh and voted for that immediately. Stone Top is an indie RPG, and let me actually get the names of the people who make it here, for which I will go to Kickstarter. It's something I backed on there, and you'll have to bear with me because I browse, not to get too parasocial, but I browse Kickstarter with Firefox, and it's awful on Firefox. But yeah, let's get Stone Top up. It is being made by, this is so slow. Penny Lantern. And it's a tabletop fantasy adventure RPG centered on a village community. So yeah, it's like a village community, and I think it's kind of like early Middle Ages, late Iron Age in feel. And the idea is that you are the protectors of this village, and you slowly explore the world around you. Not dissimilar to some Free League games, actually, like Forbidden Lands and Mutant and stuff like that. But it has much more of a pastoral sense to it, less dark, less grim, and more in tune with like the seasons. And like you might have a story that's as much about like marking out new cropland and like making sure the area is safe for the farmers as it is for like going on crazy adventures or whatever. And it looks lovely and great. The Kickstarter, I believe the development has just been delayed a bit because they were basically, like most developments, it was like, oh, we realized we bit off more than we could chew for a while, which isn't a criticism in any way. It happens literally all the time, everywhere. But I'm very much looking forward to it. So that's something we could definitely delve into. I'm not sure how well that stands for a one-shot, I have to say. It's more of a campaign thing to me. But yeah, based on the evidence of this, people wouldn't mind that either. So there we go.
That's so cool. It reminds me a bit of the video game Wildermyth, which is already sort of like slightly RPG-y.
Yes, especially after they added the multiplayer, which is now basically a tabletop role-playing game that is automated. No, Wildermyth's a fair comparison, and I'm looking forward to that when it drops. Tales from the Loop was heavily voted for, which is lucky because we did that last month. And by lucky, I mean I picked it because it was top, because it got the most votes alongside Vaesen. So that's why we ran it last month, because we listen to you. We listen to our patrons, but they're the ones giving us money.
We listen to you if you were a patron.
If you gave us money, we listen to you.
Or hazelnut yogurt.
Or hazelnut yogurt, money or hazelnut yogurt. No, but we will be. What we're going to use this poll to do is to narrow the field down a little bit, and then we'll put a more public poll out, I think, over the next few weeks, and try and source some more information. So everyone will have their chance to have their say. But you do have your chance to have your say earlier if you're a patron, which is only fair. Because you're keeping us in hazelnut yogurt. The next one that got high votes, Call of Cthulhu. I don't need to talk about Call of Cthulhu. We've already run a bunch of Call of Cthulhu on the channel. I keep threatening everyone to run some myself, because I'm quite good at Call of Cthulhu myself, So I was planning, actually, for years I ran Call of Cthulhu almost every Halloween as a one-shot. And I was planning on dusting off a couple of those older ones that I was particularly proud of and maybe rerunning them on the channel at some point. So and I'm sure you'll get more Call of Cthulhu. Well, you definitely get more Call of Cthulhu from Johnny, because some of it's coming in April in the next one-shot. So that was our poll. That's the stuff. That's the stuff that we considered. But this is for the one-shots. But see, here's the thing. I want us tonight in this group, which is not all of the Simbroom players and has other people involved in it, we are going to decide, and this is risky because Mike and Stephen might go, I don't want to play that, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Should have come on the stream then, shouldn't they?
Should have come on the stream. We're going to decide what that interim arc is for Simbroom. So to give that the full context, we're running a very, very long running Simbroom campaign. It's been run literally the first thing we ran on the channel. Our intent is to run all of the monster Throne of Thorns campaign as written and published by Free League. We've just finished the first installment of it, and that's the first installment out of 6 total, only 5 of which have been published so far. What we're doing is, between each one of these big, long, chunky stories, is we're taking a break where we run a shorter series. Last time we did it was Coriolis, which is yet another Free League game, which essentially mashes up Firefly with Tales of the Arabian Nights. And we could return to Coriolis. It's definitely been thought about, and we had some fun with it. But I'd rather run something new. And probably not something grim fantasy, because we there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it about. So here's what we're going to do, folks. Here's what we're going to do. John and Chris and Sam get more of a vote in this than Steve for obvious reasons. They have to play it.
Ooh.
But what I want to get, you've already mentioned some of the games you want to play this year, and like mention those or something completely different or whatever, something we've talked about tonight, something we haven't, maybe even mention just a genre or whatever. And in chat, I want everyone in chat who gives any kind of shit about watching this, throw your suggestions out in there and we'll talk about them as well. And ultimately, it's just going to be the thing one person here or in chat suggests. There's some amazing punning going on in chat, by the way, but we'll come back to it later, lest I completely lose focus. One suggestion made by someone around here, by myself for that matter, by someone in chat, will make the cut, and we will do that, assuming we own it and we want to play it and stuff like that. So, with that in mind, the punning it's all yoga based. If you're not in chat, you're only missing something if you're really into yoga puns.
We've already had a couple of suggestions in chat just over the course of our chat so far. Shall I throw some of those up?
Yeah. Throw those in, and then you know what I'm going to ask for? I'm going to ask every one person on this stream round here, including Sam when he comes back, for one suggestion. And it can be one you've already said that you want to play. It could be one we've mentioned that has been voted for. It can be a completely different one. And nothing's off limits. A repeat of a different system, like even a Grim Fantasy system, nothing's off limits. Let's just talk about it and thrash it out right here, right now. John, are you okay? Actually, no, John's clicking through the chat stuff. Steve, you know what? Let's give you extra responsibility here. Can you make a little list for us so we don't forget any of them?
Sure.
Lovely. In fact, can you put it in the banner? Ooh, now there's an idea. Okay. You might have to like abbreviate some stuff, but just so long as we know what everything is. Cool. Okay. So, John, have we got any suggestions from chat so far?
So we've had a suggestion from Stefan Saviano.
Burning Wheel. I did notice that, and I did notice that Justin is a big fan of Burning Wheel. He's definitely tried to recruit me into a game of that before.
Same.
That I don't think off the ground, but yeah. And also, it should be mentioned as well. It should be said that for various life reasons, Justin hasn't GM'd anything on the channel so far. But Justin is a very, very long-term GM, so I'm sure maybe we'll get something out of him in 2022. Yeah, let's put that on there. Although I have no interest in running it, but let's put it on there. I said we'd discuss everything, right? So.
No. We have an agreement from Lauren for the One Ring.
One Ring. Let's pop that on there.
Agreement from Night Bites for Deadlands.
Deadlands.
Lauren also mentioned Mothership, which I think we have in passing mentioned. Possibly we didn't want to do it because of the death in space possible overlap.
The closeness there, yeah.
4242 also
Paranoia.
And then general
the opposite of Grim Fantasy.
It's okay. Don't Kick Food and Steve started talking about 2-player role-playing games, and Cthulhu Confidential was recommended. So it's probably not good for the intermittent art, but just as we're mentioning everything else.
Just as we're mentioning it, yeah, let's put it up there. Okay.
And also complete betrayal of his ideals.
If you want to remember, no, I won't have it. I said anything goes. I won't have it. Vason needs to be Johnny. I won't have anything else. I'm putting my foot down. No. But cool. So, Steve, if you pop the banner up there when you got it, can you add stuff to banners live, or do you have to take it down to do it? I can't remember.
You have to take it down, but I usually, whenever I set up a banner, I set up a duplicate and then edit the duplicate.
Oh, fancy.
That's how I do the initiatives.
Fancy. Yeah, but let's have that initial one up there, and then we'll add to it as each of us makes a suggestion. And keep throwing them in chat. Keep throwing them in chat if you want, and we'll add to the various things. Ooh, one from Justin there. Run a Song of Ice and Fire, just for some variation. Yeah, you're right. We need some more Grim Fantasy. But no, I said nothing's off the table. Let's put it in there. I do like a Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, Johnny says the second Mythic Britain and Ireland comes through my door, I'll run Vason. Don't even care. For some reason, it shows up at 5 a.m. So you heard it here first. Johnny will be rousing us out of our beds at 5 a.m. to play Vason. There we go.
Was
so that's
there
our
anything
initial.
after Paranoia? Did I miss anything? Because there was Cthulhu Confidential.
No, I think there was one I mooted. Oh, Cthulhu Confidential, but it's a 2-player, so that wouldn't work for our thing. I think someone who was it was mentioning that it was Don't Keep Food.
Cthulhu Confidential, yes.
Yes. Don't Keep Food, and thank you for your follow, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's a 2-player, I don't think it would work for that. They weren't suggesting it for that anyway. They were just talking in general when John was mentioning the solo stuff. Okay, so let's all throw one thing in the ring here, shall we? Like I say, nothing's off limits. And let's talk about it. And you know what's going to come out again, folks? Now that we're doing this, it's only the bloody D10 that's coming out here. Oh, we've had another suggestion in there for Pendragon. Yeah. Isn't there a Goblin game that's like Blades in the Dark? Yes, Goblin Quest.
That one. Oh, all Wicked Ones.
Yeah. I would like Goblin Quest is definitely more of a one-shot, and also has an amazing mod of it in the back called Sean Bean Quest. Which, if anyone wants to hear played, there is it's probably quite old now, probably about 7 years old. But there's a wonderful Shut Up and Sit Down podcast where they play Sean Bean Quest that made me snort laugh water out of my nose at a work desk once. So there we go.
We get 2 lines. Okay, we're set.
There we go. Sam, your one pick.
How am I always first?
Do you want to put Hillfolk? That was your other one, right?
Yeah, I'm torn between.
Okay.
The thing is, I'm not sure there's anything I want to play more than Deadlands, and Deadlands is already on the list.
And Deadlands is already on there. Sure.
Just put it on again.
Have Deadlands twice. I'll say Hillfolk. I think since other Sam mentioned he'd at some point like to run some 40k thing, maybe we can leave that for the future in Hillfolk. I think Hillfolk would be a good interim system because it's sort of set up to run in not that long a period of time and like be kind of self-contained in sort of a shorter-ish story.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. And
since there are people who aren't here, it would mean we still potentially could decide some elements of the setting with them to make sure everyone's on board. So I think Hillfolk. Hillfolk's my suggestion.
Hillfolk. So that's one from Sam. Other Sam, who's just rejoined us, have you caught on to what we're doing?
Is there kind of a short list? That looks like what that is.
We're basically deciding what we're going to do as the interim system for Simbering.
Okay.
We're giving everyone a shout out.
So what is Burning Wheel and SAS?
These are chat suggestions. These are all chat suggestions.
Got it.
And Hillfolk is one that Sam's just adding. We're going around and we're all adding one, and then we'll go through an elaborate process that I will improvise in order to reduce the playing field, and then we'll make a decision.
I see.
I'm assuming Sauerkraut Kid, and hi, by the way, has just said, they came from Beyond the Grave. I haven't heard of that, but I'm assuming it's like a horror system.
I've just Googled it, and it's like a 1970s Hammer horror schlock horror system.
Cool. Let's put it on the list. For consideration. I don't know how many lines we can get on this, but either way, let's randomize again to get the next suggestion from the crew here. And it is me. It is my turn.
You're so lucky One Ring's already on there.
it is on there, and that's lucky. God, what did I even say I wanted to run other than One Ring?
There was the what's it called? The Iron Age one. No, Bronze Age one.
Aegon. Yeah, I haven't read enough of that I know if it works better as a one shot or a limited series. So I probably won't suggest that right now. Oh my god! Now I have to. So much of the stuff I want to run at the moment is fantasy, and I don't want to suggest something that's fantasy because there's enough fantasy on the channel.
You could just roll again, Matt, if you want to have a moment longer to think.
Don't let him cop out
That's
like that.
absolutely not allowed.
I was literally about to take him up on that, and then everyone was like, "No, definitely not." You know what? I am going to go with, and I said, "You know what? I'm going to go with." I didn't know, but I thought that might push.
This is why I said we should roll.
I've got something. I'm going to go with Aberrant.
Ooh.
Because Aberrant is a genre we haven't touched on the channel before because it's superheroes. But Aberrant, because it's published by White Wolf in the late 90s and early 2000s, is a grim and gritty superheroes, but in a different way to that. I guess in a slightly different focused way to like Watchmen or something like that, because everyone is very super powered, but it's also like, what would the world actually be like if like 5,000 people overnight gained superpowers? And there's like conspiracy elements to it and all sorts of stuff. So I will go with that.
Sounds closer to like The Boys.
Yeah. But there's way more superheroes in it.
Okay.
Like it's less focused than The Boys, but yeah, that kind of vibe for sure. Yeah, I will go with that. So there we go. I didn't need the extra time. John, it's your turn.
Oh my god. Apparently you kind of... I'm gonna throw Coriolis on there because I want to see more of that world.
Revisiting Coriolis, I think.
And I didn't get to play it.
You didn't get to play it, of course, because you only joined Simbroom after Coriolis. Yeah. That is a perfectly acceptable suggestion. And now let me roll for the next person on there. It's Sam. It's other Sam.
I guess it's between the two that I mentioned that I want to run. Which one of them has a well, I guess I mentioned loads that I want to run.
Remember, this would be me running it.
Yeah. Oh, you have a point. So no, let's let none of them. You're running. Screw that. Although actually, I would really like to see you run a 40k. I think Sam's kind of already said that too. So maybe I could put that on there for you because I'd enjoy.
Yeah. And I think like something 40k is a fine thing to put on there.
Yeah. That would be really fun. So that's my vote.
That's perfectly fair, Samuel. And next is Chris, who will probably troll me with just the thing he thinks I'd like to run least.
Tales of Equestria.
So you've been thrown down a well.
Troika.
I was going to say that. You stole mine.
There we go. Troika. And are you specifically suggesting the story? So you've been thrown down a well.
I think the amount, just the entry point of how strong that title is, I think just
so good.
Encourages me to understand the implications of being thrown down a well. But anything else that will run in 5 to 6 sessions.
Sure. Troika is Chris's suggestion. Leaving Steve dry. Steve, it's your turn.
Well, that's really annoying. Okay. Fallbacks. Well, I'm gonna. Cyborg isn't out yet, is it? It's not been.
It's not out yet. No, I'm afraid not.
No.
And it's going to be a while. I think it's been pushed back.
So, and the other thing is, so we've talked about the Yellow King RPG in the past, but again, I don't know whether that would fit into.
I would not want to run Yellow King. If I'm honest with you, is the top runner for what I do after Cincinnati Chronicles finishes, and I want a long-term campaign. It's definitely something I want to do over a long period of time. Just so you know, you can still suggest.
It's good from a design perspective because we haven't really used yellow in any of our branding yet.
Morkborg, but that was a one shot. So
and a bit in Troika as well.
But again, a one shot.
That's true.
Okay then. Into the Odd. I'm just picking RPGs at random.
Into the Odd, so there we go. So Troika and Into the Odd onto the banner, please, Steve, if they fit.
Okay.
And then here's what we're going to do, right? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do more round tabliness here, okay? And this is where everyone is going to start sharing the blame. All right? So what we're going to do, we're going to go around again randomly, and each of us gets to remove something off that list. All right? People who are going to participate in the actual Wednesday night streams get 2 picks, and people who aren't get 1 because they're scum. No, because they don't have to play it. So that's what we're going to do with this, which gives us a more reasonable field of things to talk about. He said, feeling the need to count them and make sure that doesn't remove everything from the thing. I don't think it does.
Do we have to remove 2 things? Surely, like, what if we're happy with everything?
But you need to narrow the field, Sam. You need to narrow the field.
Like right now, I could easily remove 2 things. But if I'm last and there's like 4
that's
things
the tragedy
left.
of the die.
Okay.
That's the tragedy of the die, Samuel. I can't. Well, let's find out. This is now tense because Sam's undergoing existential angst over what happens if he comes up last.
It's all your fault, Sam. It's all your fault. How could you do this to us?
I can't take this responsibility.
He's only bloody first.
He's
only bloody first.
Are we just playing Simbroom combat right now? Because I'm first literally every time.
Justin just said, "Don't worry, you'll be first," and you are first. Which 2 are getting removed, Sam? Because Sam is, of course, a member of the Simbroom crew.
At the risk of all my characters being murdered instantly in every game we play from now on, I'm going to remove the 1 ring.
Fair enough.
Oh,
fair enough.
Wow.
Dead. No, I don't think it's the best pick either because fantasy. But
yeah, partly that. I've only played the 1 ring once, and for some reason, I don't know. It's just not my. I love Lord of the Rings. I love it, but I don't know. For some reason, as a role playing game, it didn't really work for me.
Just didn't click with you. Yeah.
What else?
I mean, Steve's made a good point there in the chat, so I guess there'll be no guest stars in the interim series. Maybe there will be. But I just wanted some way to give more control over their fate to the people who actually have to play in this.
You have no choice.
You have to.
No.
Yeah.
There's actually
Think about it as they're voting for Mike and Stephen as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's actually been a good question in chat that has made me think of a follow-up question. Justin has asked, when is this running? Because he wasn't. It's after we finished Simbroom arc. But before,
which is, for context, in probably 3 or 4 weeks' time, this would start.
But before, when we reached the end of a story, we did a couple of mini adventures as well. Are we not doing that this time?
Not immediately, no.
Okay.
If we do, they'll be at the beginning of the next.
There'll also probably be homebrew as well, because I don't think there's any more short adventures left, is there?
There's plenty of short adventures left, but there's none actually with the experience pitch at the level of between 1 and 2, oddly enough. The adventure pack for Wrath of the Warden has an experience requirement pre-Wrath of the Warden, and the adventure pack for Witchhammer has the experience requirement post-Witchhammer. So there is a bit of a gap there. There are some random stuff that I do have, definitely at least one thing pre-written that I could run. That is like just a random thing in one of the things. But yeah, I don't know. We probably go straight into Witchhammer, but
right. So to answer in 3 to 5 weeks ish.
Yeah, around that time, I'd say on the Wednesday nights.
Okay, that's everything.
So that's 1 ring and 1 more, please, Sam.
This feels harsh, but I'm going to say Troika, because I know that 2 people sort of said it, but I don't know if I could take like
that much
6 or
whimsy.
7 weeks of it. Like I really
6 or 7 weeks of whimsy.
Yeah, that's too much whimsy.
Too much
for me.
whimsy,
I
yeah.
need misery and horror on my Wednesdays. Like,
Why break the habit?
Yeah, I just think the one shot I really enjoyed, but I do think, I don't know, I'm not sure how I would feel about doing like that long a period of it compared to some of the others, which to me at least seem better suited for like a longer-ish story.
That's fair enough. So that's 1 ring and Troika for removal, please, Steve. Controversial picks. 2 favorites two favorite picks of other people on the Simbaroom crew.
Yeah.
So not only might Askarai be attacked by multiple monsters next time, he also might find a brazen spear thrusting through his back. Sorry, says Theo, I didn't see you there. So next up, the next person with their picks to remove, and it's me. It's me. Okay, I've got a couple of easy ones here, and no offense to the people who suggested them. They're systems I have no real interest in running. First one's going to be Burning Wheel. I think it's possible one of the reasons Justin's thing didn't lift off is because I read through chunks of Burning Wheel and was like, I don't like this. So I don't know, maybe not. He's used to me not liking things, so probably not. But yeah, I just got no real interest in it. It's definitely a forerunner to a lot of like the more narrative driven like indie stuff of today. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's the precursor to a lot of stuff, and I'd rather play the stuff that it's a precursor to, if that makes sense. But so no real interest in that from me. As for the other stuff, it's difficult here. There is something on there right now that I will say, like They Came From Beyond the Grave. I'd have no idea what it is. So let me look it up, because 1970s era horror vibes. I mean, there's also the thing that I don't own it, and with that, in fact, is that the only one I don't own? It might be the only one I don't own. It is the only one I don't own. I'm gonna go for They Came From Beyond the Grave, because that means I don't have to spend money. So Burning Wheel and They Came From Beyond the Grave. I do like 70s hammer horror type stuff. Does sound fun, but we're all going to make sacrifices, cost of living, etc. News article today that disposable income is a thing of the past. So yeah, I can't in all due conscience buy a role-playing game. So those are going to be my choices. Those are my choices. And then next on the list to cut this down is going to be it's other Sam. Sam, you get one pick because of your filthy outsider status. What is going to be removed from this wonderful selection of games?
It does mean you can remove with impunity, since we have no way to get.
Yeah,
back
that's
at
true.
you
You have no vengeance upon me.
We have no intention of ever seeing you again. So
this is a great selection of roleplay. I don't really know much about Into the Odd. Anyone know about Into the Odd?
Yeah.
What is
Would
it?
you like us to elaborate?
Yeah. What is it?
It's like it's sort of a thing where you put like the technology of it is weirdly like it's kind basically it's sort of Gormenghast the game, only Gormenghast is empty and is kind of a dungeon and you're exploring it. It has that weird sort of quasi-Victorian type technology, but and it's kind of, it is slightly whimsical and slightly surreal and abstract and a bit troika, but could also be played a bit more like regular dungeon bashy. And yeah.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Quite like the sound of that one. So I think for me, it might be that. It might be, I kind of want to see all of them, but it might be that. It might be A Song of Ice and Fire, which I kind of want to see. I quite like to see that roleplay though. Or Pendragon. Oh, kind of up for all of them. Pendragon's the old one, isn't it?
Pendragon's pretty old, yeah.
Yeah,
old and crunchy.
Yeah. I might remove Pendragon just because also fantasy, and I quite like to see something a bit different.
I have a lot of love for Pendragon, but thank you so much. That was going to be probably my next pick. Just
I will remove Pendragon just for that reason. I want to see diversity, and all the others. I think
it's more campaign suited as well.
Yeah,
like because you play your own heir and stuff like that as it goes on. I feel it really leaps out more as a campaign. So, and it is quite crunchy, which makes it more difficult to run on stream. Yeah. So, Pendragon. Let's move on to our next person. So who hasn't had a vote? John, Stephen, Chris, right? Haven't had their votes. So did you just flash up the Burger Ninja suggestion? from 42. Oh, I thought that's what
Not
you...
yet, but now that you've mentioned it.
What about 42? I feel like putting in Burger Ninja now would remove the chance for me to remove Burger Ninja. So with that in mind, it's not entirely... If you want to know more about my weird antipathy for Burger Ninja, please go watch the tour of my RPG collection, which is over on YouTube. It's bound to. I have a suspicion that Johnny is going to end up running Burger Ninja at some point. We'll see. John, your 2 picks, please.
Okay. Well, Sam's stolen one of mine, so
Or
I need
Pendragon.
yeah, because it's so crunchy. I'm like, if it's, I'm gonna take a guess, like 5 or 6 sessions. I don't want to spend most of it doing admin. For that reason, I'm also pondering taking out A Song of Ice and Fire.
It's pretty
I
crunchy
know-
again.
And a lot of the character creation is about designing your house. I don't know if...
It would have
don't know
some
if I've got time
front-loaded
for that.
work to it for sure.
Yeah. But you've sort of left me with some difficult ones. I want all of them.
Delighted to.
I think I would, I'm so sorry, take out Mothership. I don't have a particular rationale. Just, it doesn't...
Do you just hate whoever suggested it?
Yes. No.
I don't know who that was.
Somebody from chat, wasn't
I
it?
think it was Lauren.
It was
Are you
one from
saying he
chat,
hates
yeah.
chat?
John doesn't hate... Well, no, don't feel victimized, person who suggested Mothership. John hates you all. John's
I
just
do-
fueled by hate.
I do not hate... I love you, chat. I love you, chat. It's okay.
Sweet, sweet lies.
I just... It seems like something I'd be very interested in watching, but less interested in playing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So...
And your
Yeah,
second
I think I'm
pick.
going to go Mothership and A Song of Ice and Fire.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I have no argument with those. I think we're doing other stuff similar to Mothership that will be, in close proximity to that. And I agree. I love Song of Ice and Fire, both the setting and the game, but it is crunchy and it would come front loaded with a load of work. So no arguments there. Right. We have 2 more votes left. And the first two of those go to Chris.
Well, I'm in at the end, so this is actually quite tricky. I have been doing a little bit of research, and I'm erring towards taking off Warhammer 40k, not because I don't desperately want to play in that universe, but I just think that we're saying Warhammer 40k, we're talking about a system, or we're talking about a setting, we're not talking about a system. We don't have a good idea of what particularly we're going to run there, and some of the options are pretty chunky as well. So,
and also to get back at Sam for his removal.
Kind of two choices are
that was not even my suggestion. I mean,
all right, we're losing him.
Yeah. Although I was going to say that my only other 2 options are Hillfolk and Deadlands. But reading over Hillfolk, I was kind of put off by the fact that it's built on kind of interpersonal conflict, which is kind of the opposite of my style of enjoyable role play, which is all about wholesome friends.
It can definitely be oriented
Deadlands.
around like positive relationships as well.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I take off Deadlands because it's of a time, and it's because I'm thinking in terms of from the player's perspective. Regardless of what system we pick, I'm going to have to learn a new system. So I want to err on the side of taking off the systems that are going to require consistent concerted study, because I have a lot of systems I need to learn over the next while.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think
That's
I'll give
actually a really good way of thinking about it.
I'll give Hillfolk a stay of execution, and I will destroy Deadlands, and with regret, I'll destroy Warhammer 40,000.
And I think, honestly, Chris, with your goals, those are the 2 best choices. Because most of the others are either very system light, or you already know them. You know Coriolis and you know Aberrant, because it's the storyteller system. It's exactly the same as World of Darkness.
I'll have
So,
you know, I know
yeah.
Paranoia as well. Friend computer trusts me.
There we go. There we go.
I think
So the 2 removals. John, sorry, were you going to say?
I was going to say I think Chris's shout for 40k is also quite good because we may have like a mixed 40k knowledge in the group. Like I don't know about Mike and Steven's one, but I know when you're playing a role-playing system that's already in an IP, especially something like 40k, if you don't know it, it can be a lot.
I think depending on the 40k system you choose, that could be a mixed blessing. Like I think if you played I've literally got it on my shelf here. Let me look.
Only War?
Only War, where you play an Imperial Guardsman. That could almost be an advantage because you're just some grunt from some planet and you've never left that planet before. And now you're on this thing going, oh, we're fighting these things called orcs. The Emperor says that they're super easy to shoot and we'll just mow them down in their thousands. And then one of the 8-foot tall, heavily muscled, tusked green bastards comes charging at you out of the mist and decapitates you in one blow of its blade. And it's like, you know, which is why in Only War you literally roll backup characters when you do character creation.
Screaming at you in incomprehensible Cockney.
Yes, absolutely. So there we go. But yeah, no, good shouts, Chris, I think. Steve, you've got the last removal before we enter into the more complex, and by complex I mean I don't know what we're going to do, discussion about which of the 4 last ones to take. So what are you going to remove?
Okay, well, this is my decision here is based really on the difference between sort of one-shots and trying to run something for several weeks. I don't know. Can you run a mini campaign of Paranoia? Does it last for? Could you? I feel as if stretching it through several weeks could be a bit of a.
You make a good point because it does have a clock, doesn't it?
Shots more. It does have a clock, yeah.
So
I'll be sad to see it go because of my history with it, but also it is something that either it takes an amount of time that might be either far too short or far too long for the gap we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it as a one shot, somewhere down the line.
I think it's a one shot better as well. And it just occurs to me that if Paranoia is removed, we have now removed every single chat suggestion, which it's not intentional, but
we love you, chat.
It is what it is. Like, if there's a bunch of suggestions we made, we're probably going to favour them over what chat has made, I guess. But you were heard, though, chat, and everything you've suggested will be added to our list of considerations for the future.
I would like to, playing Paranoia as a one shot, but with a heavy heart, I think I will remove it from this particular list.
Levity is gone from our considerations. We are purely an atmospheric tabletop role playing game channel. No room for your pathetic human jokes here. There we go. So Paranoia gets tossed off to one side. And we have 4 left, folks. Hillfolk, Aberrant, Coriolis, and Into the Odd. Let's start this by just having a chat and a bit more thought about them and what we might want to run. And then, and this is leading us into, for anyone who watches the famous YouTube series Best of the Worst from Red Letter Media, this is going to lead us into a voting nightmare where each of us votes for one of the different ones. But we've got 4 people here and we've got 4 systems. So let's have a chat about it first, and then let's have the Simba Room, the Wednesday night people just cast votes. That's all I can think of, unless anyone else can think of an alternate method of deciding it. And if you do end up with a tie, Steve and Sam can have the casting vote. And if they both vote for one, if it's a tie after that, then you know what? If it's a tie after that, what better way to decide a role-playing quandary by rolling a d6? So, just to recap and cover these. Hillfolk, is a rules light system that makes use of there's no dice, it just makes use of cards and poker chips. It's focused around narrative, specifically around interpersonal relationships, not necessarily conflict, but kind of balances of power and what people might want out of a situation and what they get out of a situation. It is sort of setting agnostic, although there is a sort of default setting of Bronze Age hillfolk. But otherwise, the back of the core book has a huge range of different settings for you to put it in. There's also a couple, at least one expansion that is all different new settings again as well. So there's a whole gamut of stuff that we could run from there. The next one is Aberrant. Aberrant is part of the White Wolf published Trinity universe, which is now published by Onyx Path. Aberrant is the setting in the middle of that continuity and is at the time, early 2000s based superhero thing. There's no reason why I couldn't update it to 2022 at all. And focuses on kind of individuals who are quite powerful in a world where there were no superpowers, and then a satellite exploded, and now there are thousands of superheroes out of nowhere who have mostly been exploited for commercial gain by companies and various things. There's like a superhero wrestling channel. There's ones who are hired as security contractors. There's all sorts of stuff. The whole range of possible superhero stuff is all happening at once on a backdrop of sort of near future, slightly cyberpunky conspiracyness. Coriolis, we have played this before. It's Firefly meets Tales from the Arabian Nights. We did an original story series of it from last year, whose name I'm desperately trying to remember, and I was proud of the naming as well.
An Abyss Midmost, wasn't it?
An Abyss Midmost was the name of it, and that was fun. So we'd have a sequel to that. It would be a direct sequel. We'd have the same characters in it. And Into the Odd, which, as I've discussed, is a slightly surreal and off-kilter, slightly dungeon bashy, with kind of sort of, I think it is kind of Victorian era technology, right? That's represented in it, that kind of thing. Victorian or early 20th century. And yeah, kind of odd. I would describe it as Troika with more focus and less weirdness and whimsy, but still some aspect of that kind of like flight of fancy to it. But more, less off the wall. Something like that. So with that in mind, you know what? We are going to go right on back, folks, to our trusty dice-based ordering. And everyone who's on Wednesdays can put their vote down for one of these systems. And then if we and this obviously means the person voting last probably gets their choice of which system we're doing. So I haven't thought this through at all. But nevertheless, let's see. Oh, actually, let's not do that. No, we can't do that. That's silly. We're gonna vote private. Has everyone got something to write on and
That's
hold up to a camera? Or well, Sam and Steve don't have to. But like, let's do that. Shall we do that? Let's do that.
Chris.
Chris, yeah, you can use your phone, whatever.
I'm gonna use my phone, but I don't know if it's. Do I have something that's gonna be big, like visible on a camera?
Yeah, at least roughly visible on the camera. So while we're doing this may take a moment to think. So in the meantime, the onus, Sam and Steve, is on you to commentate on what
great.
we're doing. You know, like it was a sport, an e-sport.
Yeah, all good. I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to potentially like breaking the tiebreaker here, Steve. We can have a nice conversation about it and have fun choosing.
Which
the one we like most.
Yeah, which system do you think they should pick then? If we're going to,
is that a question of which one I think they would pick, or which one I would?
Sorry, is this first past the post, or are we doing preferencing or proper proportional representation?
transferable?
Yeah. This says telling tales. You know, most of the crew are in Britain here. I think you should just be grateful, Chris, that it isn't entirely gerrymandered.
Matt's vote counts for 78% of the vote.
Yeah,
Sorry, folks.
I've ensured that the constituency I'm representing has enough.
Why are there
I'm
11
genuinely
votes
torn,
when
by
only
the way.
4 of
I'm
you?
trying to choose between two of them.
Yeah, I'm stuck between two of them. I really don't know.
I've got
Go
mine.
on. Go on, you gotta make your mind up. Go on.
Should we? No, should we? Should we all get 2 votes?
Oh no, you've said 1 already. Don't confuse
I
it.
have.
Just vote
No,
for
it's
1.
one.
It's so hard.
Just because you want to vote for 2.
Sam wants it too.
Let's have
Fine.
votes on how many votes we should get.
Oh my god.
Fine. I'll make my mind up. Shit.
Roll
Yeah,
a dice,
how's
Matt.
chat doing,
That's
by the
what
way?
you've been- I don't know.
How is chat doing?
So we should have a poll in chat for what we think each of the different members of the group will
We
vote
can
for
we
now.
can actually run a poll. Hang on, I can.
Oh
I can
no!
do that.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's exciting.
That
Yeah, what
will
does
take a few
chat
seconds
think
to
we
set
should
up.
do? And then that will destroy. They'll vote for whichever one we don't vote
No,
for
we-
at all. And it's like, oh god.
Yeah, of course. Wait, we probably shouldn't reveal that before me and Steve make our choice. Oh god,
So much pressure. There is so much pressure in the
if we have to,
situation.
which we probably won't. Chances are you guys will choose.
Oh my god, there's so many things to consider between the two I'm thinking of. There are pluses and minuses. It's genuinely this is genuinely nerve-wracking. Okay.
I'm done. I've done a while ago. I don't know what the problem is, Matt. I just think you're
Yeah, it's
maybe not
easy.
very good at this.
Fair enough. I have made my decision.
Okay, is everyone ready to reveal their decisions?
Is everyone ready to reveal their decisions?
I'm ready, but I don't know if it's going to be big enough for the camera. But I've made a decision.
We can try. We can try. Okay. Here we go, folks. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it's a double into
and
the odd.
into the odd squeaks it.
Oh,
Into the odd
Oh.
squeaks it with me and Chris. I was so close to Hillfolk, John. So close to Hillfolk.
I was also
What?
very close to Hillfolk.
this is the thing. If we'd done Hillfolk, that would mean we'd still have to figure out which setting we wanted to do.
That's true. That was one of my considerations, as was the card-based stuff on stream. But more than anything, you know what just sold it for me in the end? Into the Odds new.
That's fair. That
Got
is
a new
fair.
release. More hype behind it. That was it.
You've got
And I would
to
say-
use that algorithm.
Yep.
For me, I thought I remembered Hillfolk. I loved Hillfolk, but I also remember distinctly the stress when you have to come up with the scene.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that on stream is going to be even more stressful. So in the end, I didn't vote for it, but I'm happy with Into the Odd anyway. I think it'll be very good.
It will be good. And you know what? I can in fact share.
I mean, one of the reasons I cast my vote the way I did was because, of course, it's the nice kind of weird surrealist thing I'm in the mood for, but also just the pictures I've seen of the actual material are just so pretty, and I want to play a game where that much care has been put into its creation. I was a little bit sad I had to pass over that Kickstarter when it rolled around last time.
Well, speaking of that, why don't we? Can I full screen this? Someone help me how I actually full screen on Adobe here, because it's really not clear. If you can do that, maybe you can't. Hey, I'll just share it anyway. But speaking of the art that Chris was talking about, here we go. So this is the remastered version of Into the Odd, which I kickstarted, lest you think I've got it from the high seas. Chris McDowell and Johan Noor. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, it is lovely. Look at that. Look how lovely that is. Look how fancy and weird that is. Yeah, good shit. That's the art punk shit I like to see.
Oh, look at those tables.
Yeah, tables.
So yeah, this is there's definitely elements of Mork Borg here, right?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think,
Johan, yes.
yeah, Johan Noor,
yeah.
obviously, yes, did a lot of the art for Mortborg as well, right? Yeah. So, yeah, this is what we will play then, assuming Mike and Stephen don't go. That's the last thing I want to play on Earth. So probably not in that case, but assuming they don't, and I don't think they will. Yeah, after Symbaroum, we will be playing a shortish series of Into the Odd, which almost feels like an odd little, almost like a compromise pick, doesn't it? Like a sort of thing that who suggested Into the Odd?
That
Was it
was
Steve?
that was me as a clutch. Everybody's stolen my suggestions, so that was off the top of my head.
There we go. But just goes to show, the clutchest of suggestions can make the biggest difference, which is the theme of Lord of the Rings, of course. So in a way, One Ring did win. Look, we're getting towards the end of the stream. I've got no idea what I'm fucking talking about. But yeah, there we go. The lovely Into the Odd, and isn't this a lovely little RPG book?
So beautiful.
And that is, in fact, showing our backstage memes there. Never mind, not doing that again. If you want to blame anyone for that meme of Elmo thrusting his face into a pile of cocaine, blame Chris entirely.
I mean, there was a reason, Matt, I put that in backstage and not Tales of Community.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I was just flashing up to make sure there isn't like a statement in backstage there that's like, I really fucking hate all of our followers and subscribers. They're just the worst. But fortunately, someone had posted something just after that, so it was. It's all fine. It's all
Which
fine.
time we said that, Matt? I mean, that's like 90% of the backstage conversation, right?
It's basically in there on a rotation. So there we go. Might not want to show. Oh, has it got like nudity? Has Into the Odd got nudity in it, John?
No, but presumably the book is copyrighted. If it goes in a YouTube video, someone could potentially read every page of the book in our YouTube video.
I think I clicked through that quite fast. I know they could pause.
I don't know what the rules of that are.
Who knows?
I mean,
Who knows?
is the quality high enough to actually read the detailed bits? I'm not sure.
I think if they were bothered to do that, they would just they'd just go to the Trove and lift it, wouldn't they? Like, which we do not encourage you to do whatsoever. Don't pirate RPG shit. Pay for it. People need paying for their work. But the point is, if they wanted to do that, they don't need to slow down our video and click through page by page and screen grab it.
Yeah, a small bit of the book.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, good news is we're playing your game.
Well, it's all about exposure, isn't it?
Good news is it was democratically voted for. It's pretty good.
I mean, there's exposure, and then there's being in a, I don't know, being in a hailstorm without your clothes on.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I have skipped through entire books of RPG stuff on Stream and Pat, which isn't to say it's right. It's just to say that it's a mistake I've made already. So frankly, I can anticipate me making it in the future as well.
Two wrongs make an excuse, Matt. Two wrongs make an excuse.
I was just enthused by how
It is a lovely book.
It is a lovely book.
It did make me laugh when me and John were writing in the chat, like, hey, maybe don't show this. And you're just like,
I'm just like, look at this. This is amazing.
Let's zoom in.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we're playing Into the Odd, and we'll be doing that in a few weeks' time after Wrath of the Warden has wrapped. Not an easy sentence to say. So we hope you join us for that. We hope you enjoyed this ramshackle stream talking about all the tabletop RPG systems we want to play this year. If you've got any further suggestions for us, anything you'd love for us to play, then please do join our Discord and throw suggestions in there. And while you're at it, why not stay and chat to the wonderful people there, and also watch all our videos multiple times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, and that would be wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to my fellow crew members for indulging me in this stream. We've had a few follows over the past few days, and I think I forgot to read them out last week. So thank you to Koviet, Iskander, Yuchina Senpai, Don't Kick Food. Thank you for your follows on Twitch, and we will catch you next week for Shadows of Estrin on Monday and Symbaroum on Wednesday. I think it's actually a regular week next week. So we'll see you then. Take care. Stay safe. Goodbye.